Sure. Hi, everybody. I have to invite him. Yeah, John. It says you're invited. Oh, yeah, there you are.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, good. Let me turn up the volume. This is the quintessential live.
Should I change my glasses, or is it funny that we basically have the same glasses on?
No, we're nerds. We
Yeah.
like have the same glasses.
Okay.
No, but
These are
I
these are
love.
these are the Meta glasses. My wife got them for me for Christmas.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
So, are we in the metaverse?
No, I'm not recording or anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's not as much fun.
Yeah.
What would be really cool is if we were in the metaverse and you were recording that, or
Yeah.
and you could put us there and we could be like walking
Yeah.
around and buying things with NFTs, and that would be
That'd be
cool,
amazing. Incredible.
right? Um,
Incredible.
and I was like looking. It's funny because on mobile you can only see this short little area,
Yeah.
but and then I was watching our video last week. Like my office is also the extra one of the extra bedrooms and the catch-all in the house.
Yeah,
So
sure. Yeah.
there, and that's the way it is there.
Yeah.
But anyway, how are you, man?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Did you have a nice holiday?
I did, yeah. It
Went
was
to
like,
went to Boston, huh? Yeah.
yeah, we went to Boston and
Go Red
saw.
Sox. Go Patriots. I'm a huge Red Sox fan. I'm a
Oh my
diehard.
God, we never had that talk. I don't
I'm
know if
I'm
we
a
could be friends anymore.
I'm a diehard. Man, I was in school up there when they broke the curse. I actually went to one of the games at Fenway in the year they were down 3-0 to the Yankees. And well, are you a Yankees fan?
Oh yeah,
Uh, uh,
I know, but I can show you. Yeah, I have a picture with, or I was friends with, uh,
yeah.
I am friends with Mike Timlin,
Oh, no
who
kidding.
was,
Cool.
and so I told him, he knows. I was like, I don't like you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we were friends, and
Yeah.
he has a mural of all the dirty socks, and that were on that team,
That's
and
amazing, man.
hanging in his
Oh
house.
my.
I'll show
Oh
it to
my
you.
gosh.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
really.
god. Oh my. Are you
And
still friends with him?
also, he lives next to Mike Myers,
Oh,
and
no kidding.
yeah, right in Colorado. Like,
Yeah.
so we
Wow.
lived in the same town, and we used to go do things, parties and stuff.
Yeah, man. Love that dirty water, man. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Steelers fan because I'm from Pittsburgh. So I'm
I've
I'm
let go
I'm
of
thrilled. I'm thrilled with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I've let go of all the drama attached to it. I used to get like emotionally attached to it all, but I've let
Sure.
all that go because life is too short. So we can still be friends, and I love you.
Yeah, yeah. I love you too. That's good.
So yes, so we went to Boston. We took a couple of shots with Cheers, where I spent my 21st birthday was actually in Boston, but I was in Vermont.
Oh,
I
no
was
kidding.
in Vermont for 10 years, so it's cold. So it's
It
not
is.
as cold.
Vermont's beautiful though. A lot of people don't know that in my opinion, the best fall foliage drive in the United States is from Boston up to New Hampshire and into Vermont. Driving from Boston to Burlington in mid October, early October in there is like, I mean, it's like driving the Pacific Coast Highway in the spring or something. I mean, it is so beautiful, and it's absolutely incredible. So
It's magical, yeah, and there's
yeah, it really
nothing
is.
like it, and you have to be there to like all the paintings and everything, they don't do it justice. You have to, like, smell the leaves and the fresh
Oh
air,
yeah, yeah, you gotta.
so
Yeah,
it's like it's really magical, but
cool.
so yeah, you know what? It's interesting, like, nobody, I see people joining. Hi, Anna,
Hi,
Gary,
everybody.
oh, John Brewton joined. Hi, John.
Hi,
And Ram, Shulamit, Wensley, and
Mr.
then
Strategy Shots joined. Hi, Strategy Shots. I'm a big fan.
yeah,
I don't know your name, but I'm a big fan. Uh,
right.
so yeah.
Um, and Peter. Hi, Peter. So,
Hey, Peter.
John put together like a question list. Unless people have questions, we put together like a list, or I did not do that. John did.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe we can have some questions and we can keep like a theme going. And the irony is he put together like dozens and dozens of questions.
Well, so we have options,
Yeah, so we have options.
It's
But the way we talk, we'll get through like two
yeah,
questions. Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly.
if anybody had, I mean, I'll open up with you because I think,
Well,
I
I
mean,
should say Claude helped me put together a set of questions for it, just in the interest of transparency. But I thought it was
no,
helpful. So
yeah, no, well, what I like him, I mean, I think that it's a new year,
mhm.
and of course, everybody's on like, "Oh, I'm gonna change my life this year. It's gonna be the most amazing time
Sure.
of my," all
Yep.
this stuff, and now we're at day like 5 or 6, and it's already like, now what do I do? I think it gets overwhelming, and then
Yeah.
combine that with current events and
Mhm.
the pace of technology changing. There's so much going on and it can be overwhelming. So how are you dealing with the overwhelm? How are you like segging out your actions in addition to being a father and a
Yeah.
husband and
Well,
all that?
it's funny. So my wife and I were talking last night, going to sleep, and and I am so just I guess maybe folks don't might probably don't know this about me. So I have a 2-year-old, and I have 3 stepchildren, who are 18, 14, and 10. Um, and so parenting is very new to me, as are holidays with kids. Um, so my wife and I met several years ago. And so anyhow, I was saying to her last night, before kids and all of this, holidays were like relaxing. Oh, this is great. I'm off for the year. The week between Christmas and New Year's was like, read some books, go on a trip, go to have fun with your friends, like, just yeah, it was just the never ending weekend. And like the week of Thanksgiving, like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and then that whole weekend was, and now, you get to the Monday after Thanksgiving, or you get to the Monday after New Year's, and you're absolutely exhausted, and you need a trip, you need a vacation, um, and so that's new for me. So I really like establishing goals and resolutions for the new year. So I'm kind of taking this week as the week to kind of start that, since we were, just navigating family stuff through the holidays, and you know making sure all the kids had a lot of fun, which they did, and it was great. So
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah. Yesterday was kind of the day, right?
Yeah,
I think when Christmas and New Year fall in like midweek, Wednesday,
yeah,
Thursday, it's just like a big long, it's really like from Halloween to the Super Bowl.
yeah, yeah,
It's like it's like 4 months off,
yeah,
and we used to use that, excuse back in the drinking world. It was like just
yeah,
one after the other, one holiday and one excuse after the other.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, I've kind of veered from that. Now we're solopreneurs, so we work all the time, even on like I have a new big, client
Hmm.
who's a high touch person and who
Yeah,
also
cool.
he's a very, uh high level person, but he's
Hmm.
also very communicative. So,
Hmm.
we were talking on Christmas, on New Year's, and he was on vacation in
Hmm.
Mexico here and
Yeah.
in Cancun with his family, and we're still talking. So we're always working. So
Hmm.
that might be a good topic to talk about. It's like how do
Yep.
you you with AI technologies and all the things we're supposed to do,
Hmm.
entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, right?
Hmm.
That's my
Yeah.
coach who's actually on this call right now, who's
Hmm.
watching us. He's like, there's a difference between solopreneurship and entrepreneurship. And one of the
Sure.
questions you had on the list is like, when do we from switch out of solopreneur mode? Or
Hmm.
do we ever actually switch out of that? We don't have to. Some people um, they push for like Justin. If you take somebody like Justin Welch, he's
Yeah.
like just schoolpreneur, keep it lean, don't hire anybody. 99%
Yeah.
margins. Is that
Yeah.
possible?
Is that your that's the question? So okay. Um, well, first of all, I think that the point you make about the difference between like solopreneur versus entrepreneur, uh, I think to a certain extent that's more of like I think that's how we get marketed to in a sense. But I think they're both. I think that if you are a person running a one person business, I think you're an entrepreneur. If you're trying to build a business, you're fundamentally an entrepreneur. I think there's also a lot of confusion over startup versus I'm making a startup versus I'm building a small business. To me, the differentiation there is startup is I need to go raise capital or take a lot of capital that I have to create a runway so I have time before I actually have to make money, much less become profitable. Versus small businesses, no, I need to go make money. Like I need the shortest distance between me and my first dollar, and I need to figure out how to make that profitable as fast as possible as well. That's the world I'm most familiar with. I think the solopreneur question is really interesting relative to AI because I think there's all this talk about people are going to build very large businesses with very few people. I think whether it's one person or three people build a $10 million business, build a $20 million revenue generating business. I think I don't know if that matters so much because I think in the past to build a business that does 10 million in revenue, you would have been talking about dozens of people or at least a dozen. Like it would have been, a lot more people. So I think the solopreneur conversation, much like the creator economy, becomes much more relevant because AI is going to enable lots of large businesses to be built in this way. And so the idea of a solopreneur is something that is kind of going to become more commonplace and more talked about and more prevalent.
Yeah, and that leads
Yeah.
to one of the questions that you had on there
Yeah.
is what, using AI,
Hmm.
which is I think like, our audience base here, anybody who's going to be tuning into this, they're
Sure.
mostly creators. You said the creator economy.
Hmm.
So they're mostly creators and in that solopreneur reign or trying to figure out like how do I even monetize? Like what am I doing? I'm just writing. And that's where you had another question on our long sheet of questions. Is like because we've both built these big audiences, which I
Yep.
think which is incredibly important,
Yep.
and so it's incredibly important because I think most people spend so much time. There is an opportunity now. Years ago you had a storefront,
Hmm.
and maybe you had 10, 20, 50,000 people if you were in a busy place that can come into your storefront. And
Right.
that's about who you can reach. And then you send out
Right.
flyers and mailers and all these things. Now you can reach literally 5 billion people a month on social media. That's
Yes.
insane. But
I
there's
agree.
also tons of competition.
Hmm.
And so how do we do that? How 10 years ago you could just say, "Oh, I am a coach." Yeah, that's the big
Hmm.
one. I'm a coach. I am a consultant. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a speaker.
Hmm.
Hired me, and you were getting hired
Yeah.
because there was relatively no competition. And
Right.
where people are like, "What's a coach?" There was Tony Robbins and a couple other people, but
Hmm.
now we're all a dime a dozen. So you have to find a way to
Sure.
to to separate yourself out, and we do that
Sure.
with content. So we create
Yes.
content now,
Hmm.
and then you have to be like, all right, how do I monetize this? You start building an
Yes.
audience and people start following you. You're like, what do I do with the audience? Now, the audience is the most important piece. And then once you have an audience, they'll tell you what they need. And that's how you figure out how to monetize. Right.
Right.
I think in the future. So I think there's so many AI is the biggest topic
Hmm.
in the world right now. So
Hmm.
there's all these people with AI presence,
Hmm.
newsletters or whatever. But how do we continue to monetize it? I think that's the bubble. I think the bubble isn't so much AI, it's not going anywhere.
No.
But I think the I think the bubble is gonna be like, over too many people,
Hmm.
talking about the same things. And
Hmm.
then also,
Great.
as we've talked about, which I'd love for you to continue to talk about,
Sure.
is that all these big companies, these AI companies,
Hmm.
are generating revenue, but not profit. Right. So,
Um.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
think that's the big bubble. I think that's a
Hmm.
great conversation to have too. Unless anybody else has questions. I don't see anybody or I don't know where the questions come in because last week people were doing that. But anyway, got anything you want to chime in on there?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I think. Look, for me, I think we've talked about this before. but I kind of want to hit it again because I think it's a really something I think a lot about. I think relative to the creator economy and that conversation, I think I think that part of the labor force is only going to grow. And I think that's because you're going to see, or what we are seeing, is a conversion or an expansion of the 1099 contractor economy becoming part of the creator economy, where content and online presence and the kinds of things that we're talking about here become just kind of table stakes for being a successful professional. Um, Writing articles. You don't need to make content every day and do all the infographics and carousels and the kinds of things that you and I do. And I for one, really enjoy doing. And I loved the carousel I just published this morning on LinkedIn, man. I was in there this morning, like working with it. And like, I think it looks great. I'm really happy about it. But like, you don't have to do all of that. But I think that companies relative to AI are going to find that they need, uh, that the 40 hours a week that they would have previously agreed to pay their accounts receivables department to perform that work can now be done in 20 hours or 15 hours or 30 hours. And they still want the same high quality people. They still want that same team in there doing that work, but they they either need to repurpose them and reallocate their skill set into other places within a company, or they're going to need to go to some people and say, hey, we really still want you, but we can only afford to pay you for 25 hours of work a week. And so all of those people are going to have to figure out, okay, how do I find two or three accounts receivables departments to work within to make the money I need to make each year to help me live the life I want to live, support my family, whatever the case may be. And so when I think about the creator economy right now, relative to AI and all of this, that's what I'm really thinking about is in the expansion of it. I think it expands and really becomes a much larger part of the labor and workforce conversation because of that shift. And I think that need for those accounts receivables departments to then find two or three companies that they're doing their work across will necessitate them to create portfolios of their work, content, online presence to market themselves to find those two or three companies. The other thing is that post COVID with Zoom and remote technology and remote work, those two or three companies can be anywhere in the world. They could have one company that they go into an office to. I was talking, my wife has a woman who works in accounts receivable at her company. My wife's the executive director of a nonprofit. She's there in office with them 3 days a week. But then her other primary job is with a company out in Los Angeles. And she's been with that company for a year. And so it's that. I think that's what I think about with the growth of the creator economy and AI and what's happening. I think that's how things are going to shift kind of economically for the individual and the company.
And then so that's amazing. And then so the one of the questions you had on here is like um that I wanted to tap into based on what you were saying
Hmm.
is like how where was that? I was just looking at it too. It was about keeping the humanness, doing
Yep.
everything you just said, but how much humanness do we still need inside of all this extra capacity that we have with
Hmm.
AI,
Yeah.
to do the work of we all do. We all have this capability. If you
Hmm.
set things up the right way, we all have the
Yep.
capability to do the work of 5 people
Sure.
or maybe more. But
Sure.
how much humanness needs to be in that?
Hmm.
Because we all see this regurgitated
Yep.
AI copy and pasted content because that's what's available now. I mean, we can program agents or even just custom gems or custom GPTs to
Yep.
spit out a post or a newsletter or whatever. And most of us now can tell which of those are just copy and pasted and which
Yes.
have an authentic voice. So how
Yes.
much humanness do you think we need to have inside of all this? I guess it depends
Mhm.
on, well, as I'm asking that question, I guess it depends on what your product is. Like if you're selling, you
Mhm.
know, cups and
Mhm,
blenders on Amazon. Like we don't need much humanness in that. But
mhm.
I think uh, the big differentiator
Yeah,
in terms of all the competition, because anybody can do the same thing that we're talking about right
right,
now.
right.
Millions of people are doing it, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. So the competition is the the humanness.
Mhm.
So how much humanness do we need? Do you think? I think we need a lot.
Well, I think we do too. I think, uh, so I just turned 45,
Yes, happy birthday. I'm sorry, I haven't even talked to you
please,
since. Yeah,
please, I turned 45 on Saturday. And my stepson, came down and wished me a happy birthday. It was really nice. They actually surprised me with a cake and balloons and stuff on, that night, which, made me cry. It was very happy. Uh, but anyhow, um, I said, "Happy birthday." I said, "Oh, I'm really excited." He's like, "Why are you excited? You're just that much closer to it all being over." And, and so
he said that.
well, yeah, and now he was being funny, and he's being funny, and, he's a
Yeah.
jokester, and so he thought it was hilarious, um, and it was, but anyway, I think to that point, I think the I think the people that are directing the conversation right now around AI are people who are fundamentally having to change their orientation relative to their work, relative to what writing is, relative to what research is. People like me, man, who spent years and years building research skills, Excel skills, analysis skills that now the AI can just do better than me or can teach, a completely inexperienced person how to do what it literally took me 15 years to learn how to do. Now that doesn't mean that I don't know how to then prompt really well for some of those things or whatever, but everything is changing. And so I think it is, understandable that we are concerned about the human element of it right now. But to my way of looking at it, and one thing I really want to do in 2026 is I just want to be really transparent about how I'm building what I'm building and how I'm using it. I'm going to be creating some articles and things in the next and videos in the next few weeks that show people how I build out my articles, how I build the research appendix, how I build the infographics and sidebars and things I put in my articles using AI. Because I don't think that means the work is less human. I think it means it's just that I think that is becoming human. And so in some ways, I think the most human thing we can do is to just very transparently talk about how we're using it and what we're able to produce with it that we wouldn't be able to produce on our own. And then secondly, I think that my 2-year-old daughter is going to grow up in a world where it's all she's ever going to know. She's
Yeah.
never going to know the computer the way I do, just like I didn't know the typewriter the way my mother did. And so I think as you have these generations that become educated within an AI native world, uh, they will inherently make it human. They will create new art. They will create what is new about that. And I think that is what will make it human. And I think it's awesome and I love it. And I'm an optimist and, uh, people can hate on me for that, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, and that's amazing how you tied into all that. And
Yeah.
I agree 100% with you. Like it's just a tool to
Mhm.
make our lives more convenient and more exciting,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, like, and eventually that'll get boring, and then it'll make room for the next thing, whatever that is. But
Yes.
I mean, at some point, it's like I just got the new iPhone 17 Pro Max. Like,
Oh, wow. Cool.
yeah, it is. It's really nice. But I mean, if you look, if I remember when I got like the 12 or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like, and it was the most amazing thing, and now it's trash. Like, it's
Yeah.
not even worth anything, right? So,
Yeah.
I think that at some point, Atari was the most amazing thing. The Commodore 64,
Sure.
when Nintendo Like all these,
Contra, man. Contra
yeah,
was Contra
yeah,
was it.
everything becomes obsolete,
Yeah.
and a new, and it makes space for a new world
Yeah.
to emerge, and
Remember
that's
the Power Glove?
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I mean, so that's exciting, you
Yep.
know. And then I also think another thing that makes it human, because that was such a great explanation, John, is this.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is having
Agreed.
this banter, like,
Yep.
we were texting before this, for anybody who's
Yeah.
listening, we were texting before this, it's like we have this list of questions to ask each other, and most of it is because I think unless we get stuck, you know, and we're like, "What do we talk about?" And we're talking
Right.
about, like, what we had for dinner last night. "Oh, here's a question
Right.
to move us." And, that's great, but I think the other thing is that makes it human is doing this, having these live conversations with
Yeah.
people. So, and I think it's important to be able to um, talk your to walk your talk, like whatever you're typing or writing about in your newsletter or
Yeah.
whatever. One of the coolest things about Substack, and I think all the platforms do this now, is the ability to go live, to do this.
Yeah.
And I think if you can get on, that's what builds trust. There's so many people, millions of people, and some that are probably listening, that are
Yeah.
just hoping, what, you know, you can do this now. You can create Facebook channels and spit out content with AI that's really good and relevant.
Right.
If
Right.
you put a camera on you, can you talk about it? And I
Right.
think that that's going to be the human factor, to be able to uh, be seen for what you're actually talking about and creating.
Right.
That's
Agreed.
what's gonna separate you as a creator.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and so I think that another one of the questions is like, what's an important piece to remember as a solopreneur,
Mhm.
and or what is the most important thing? And there's a couple of the things that come to my mind,
Mhm.
and that is because right now it's exciting. We're like, I'm going to make this product. I'm going to make a course. I'm going to have a community. I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
But I think that one, it's really important to have an audience to speak with. So
Mhm.
first, we create the audience. So when we go and launch our product, there's
Mhm.
actually people listening, and
Yep.
I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss, because it's an exciting time right now.
Mhm.
Able to say you can create a course now, like the course when I made a course, and it was called the Solopreneur Operating System, and it was
Yeah.
like maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And it's, I shouldn't say it's obsolete. The principles, the fundamental principles of business and solopreneurship,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship are in that video, but
Yeah.
all the tools and concepts, they're pretty much obsolete. So,
Yeah.
but I spent like 3 or 4 months recording, editing, writing, like all the stuff that went into creating that course, and then
Sure.
I went to launch it, and I was like, it was like crickets. I think I sold 5 of them. They were like
Yeah.
$150, and
Sure.
I
A lot
spent,
of time.
a few $1,000s, and that's a mistake that a lot of people make.
Mhm.
Um, so, but now there's, you know, different ways to monetize, different ways to, uh, to make money doing that. And
Yeah.
so what are you doing? Like, how do you think, uh, what order of events need to happen in order for a business to be a business and not just a hobby?
Uh, I think I don't know. I mean, I get you need to be able to pay your bills with it, right? So,
Yeah,
like, that's a,
that's
I
it.
mean, I think that's the fundamental. Um, and I think that's a challenging I think it's a challenging learning curve for a lot of people. I think, I think I mean, I think you hear, you mentioned Justin Welsh earlier. He's a huge advocate of do not stop the primary gig until you are consistently earning everything you need to get by. Don't just jump and go all in and leave everything else behind. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. Um, I definitely in the last year, I had moments where I walked away from things that were very reliable sources of income in favor of what I've been building. And then some things did sell through and were really positive, and some things didn't. And I think that's a challenge of it. I think it's all. Uh, but I think relative to what I was saying before, about the accounts receivables department and needing to work not just with one company, but two or three companies over the course of a career. I think it's a challenge that a lot of people are going to have to face and have to start looking at themselves as not just an employee of a company, but as a small business in and of itself. I think that's crucial. One thing I would also say, I think sometimes people start companies and they think that they need to build something that does 100 million in revenue or a billion, right? Like billion, like slips off people's tongues, like it's water or like a cookie. Like I mean, it's just, and I think a lot of people don't realize that if they can build a business that does $2 million a year in revenue, $1 million a year in revenue, and they can sustain that, that is most likely going to be all the money that they'll ever need. Like I think we talk about huge numbers all the time, and I think when we don't realize that much smaller numbers are still enormous numbers that would give us everything we ever need. Um, that is certainly something over the course of my career that I have, and in my ambitions, I've had to level set and right size at different points in time. I think if you had talked to me 10 years ago, you would have been talking to someone. I was building a larger company at that point, but you would have talked to someone who thought in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and whatnot. And now I think in terms of hundreds of thousands and seven figure millions of, and how do I do that? Well, that's hard to do. Like just like in and of yourself. And like, that's not an easy task. And then maybe you're fortunate and you build something and you can build a machine that then scales it. And it can become bigger, or maybe you don't want that. Maybe you don't need that. I think, think we kind of future trip a lot and get too far ahead of ourselves.
I agree with you 100%. And Peter just
Oh,
said it depends on what you're building, on what
100%.
you're building your business for. And it's
Yep.
really true. And it's so funny you brought that up because I've brought this up with clients in the past who
Sure.
had extremely insane levels of stress.
Hmm.
And one of them is this, especially for if there's any middle-aged people on here that think, "Oh, I've missed it. I'm gonna die broke," or all these things. And um, I think what you just said is so important for people to understand is to keep your dreams right-sized. And
Yep.
I think everybody, you see all these people say, "Oh, I've had 12 eight-figure exits before I was 30 years old," and it's like, no. I mean, maybe, like, I don't wanna be, like, negative either, but
Right.
I think what's really important is to realize the enormity of your goals and
Hmm.
try to keep them try to keep them manageable. Like,
Hmm.
you definitely wanna stretch and be outside your comfort zone. I mean, like,
Hmm.
if if you say, "Oh, my goal is to build $100 million business," do you even understand what that means? Like, do you
Hmm.
know what it means
Yeah.
to build $100 million business? And
Right.
most people in the world, most,
Right.
99.999% are not
Hmm.
qualified to do that. But
Right.
you say, "I wanna be able to travel." So what I do is I always start with a vision plan, a business plan for your life, and I say,
Hmm.
"Your goals." Well, if your goal is, "I wanna have a house here, I wanna go to the beach, I wanna be able to travel, I want
Hmm.
freedom, financial freedom."
Yeah.
So, really, in order for that to happen, and
Right.
if you invest wisely, you don't need to have $100 million. If you have $5 million in your bank, that's and it's achievable and it's manageable. It's enough to build
Hmm.
most of your goals, to achieve most of your goals and build your
Hmm.
dreams.
Right.
So if you break it down that way, it's very manageable.
Great.
If you and it doesn't have to happen overnight, which is I think one of the big stressors and the cause for anxiety and
Yeah.
addictions of these things is that you're like, well, I see this person on Instagram
Hmm.
that has $10 million and I
Yeah.
need to do that, and I either don't know how or I wanna do it tomorrow and I can't do that.
Right.
So, then we start getting drunk or turning to distractions or whatever.
Sure.
But if you start chipping away at it, and this is where I think a lot of the stress comes from, we're not good at
Hmm.
patience and time and consistent actions,
Yeah.
consistent steps in the right directions towards our goals.
Absolutely.
And if you do that, you're going to hit your goals. And I
Yep.
think most people start, they're like, I need to get to level 10. I've talked about this before, and I'm at level 1, and then
Hmm.
I quit at level 3 because it
Hmm.
gets hard. But if you
Right.
keep chipping away at what it is you're doing, and you're
Right.
going to get there, but keep it
100%.
manageable.
Yeah.
Make it a stretch goal. It's like, well, I want $5 million, but make it 10. If you're young enough, you could do that if you invest wisely, if you start building um, a business that generates enough money that
Hmm.
you can live and invest, and don't go out and buy all the new iPhones and, uh,
Yep.
toys and big houses. Like, another problem is overspending. So,
Sure.
if you here's a problem that's gonna happen again soon, just like
Hmm.
2008. It's like if
Hmm.
you qualify for a $300,000 house, you start looking at $400,000 houses, and
Hmm.
then you end up in something that you can't afford, and you do that with every product that's
I
out there
agree.
on the
I
market.
agree. I tell you what, I got about 5 more minutes, and then I have to go and help my wife with my daughter with something. So why don't we wrap up with how about, do you want to do predictions or do you want to do resolutions for the new year?
I want you to lead me. You tell me what you wanna do, and you guide me through it.
Let's do resolutions. Everyone's predicting everything right now, and everyone's probably wrong about everything they're predicting. So so let's
Well, I
do.
like to, but I don't know, the predictions are interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's do predictions. Great. Let's each give two predictions about the year ahead. And this is recorded, and so we'll circle back and see what we thought. What
Interesting.
what's a prediction you're thinking about relative to the year ahead?
I don't know. Do you mean in terms of me or the economy or the world or whatever?
I would say business world, uh greater economy, technology, AI, like, where do you see things going?
Well, I think that what an interesting thing, and especially to be
What's your
candid on the
prediction for
top.
Venezuela in the new year, Dennis? That's
Yeah,
what I want to.
I'm predicting more oil in the
Yeah,
US.
yeah.
No, you know what I think? Here's what I think is that I saw that Meta acquired, what's the company Meta acquired?
Madness.
Menace, right, and it
Yep.
was $2 billion, and it
Yes.
was really interesting. It made me think about, and first of all, like $2 billion. Now we're talking back in big numbers again, but
Yeah.
$2 billion, that's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to Meta,
No.
so it's like,
Small team
it
too.
yeah, whatever Zuckerberg himself, not to mention the value of Meta, is worth, hundreds of times more than that. So
Hmm.
I think it was an interesting move. It keeps them relevant, but I'm just using this as an example.
Hmm.
The point is that everything that Manus does, and I haven't studied it at in depth as maybe
Hmm.
you, some of these other people have,
Hmm.
but most of it, whatever that is they do, is
Hmm.
either going to be obsolete or
Hmm.
or unnecessary on some level. So, and I'm
Hmm.
using that as a metaphor for a lot of what's happening right now. When
Yeah.
we talk about, like, value investing, you wanna go
Hmm.
back and look at a history of how companies have performed. There is
Hmm.
no history of any AI going on right now. So I think there's
Hmm.
so much hype around AI and technology that
Hmm.
most of what we use, if you think about just in the last 2 years with
Hmm.
ChatGPT, I
Hmm.
mean, like, all we did was type comment, and now there's so much more. You could create agents, you could do all these things. So I
Sure.
think it's moving. My prediction is that everything that we're using right now,
Yeah.
and 90% of it, we won't be using by January 1st,
Yeah.
2027.
The rate of obsolescence it will also grow. Yes, I agree with that. You know what? I'll piggyback on that then. I think a prediction I would have for the year ahead is I think I'm wearing my Meta glasses that my incredible wife got me for Christmas this year. Um, I think this is a year where we really begin to go voice first as opposed to typing everything, and talking more to our AI platforms. I spend a lot of time in my car talking to Perplexity, talking to Claude, talking to Chat, having conversations, and then having it send me documents and things that I want when I get to where I'm going. So I think that voice first happens this year, and I think that will make a lot of startups that are building text-based interfaces and products irrelevant and burn up a lot of venture capital money in the process. And then I think more largely, there's also this question about all the money that's being invested, the literally trillions of dollars that are being invested into this space. That's good. I like that. I like how much of it has happened here in the States as well. But I think there's a question about what segment of these investments, what vertical is going to be made irrelevant. Maybe on the data side of things, and the data, the warehouses and the systems that are being built with to house all to house all the servers and whatnot. At what point does the chip technology change, and then is some investment that's 70% of the way down the tracks, or 50% of the way down the tracks, 40% of the way, does all of that money and all of that investment become irrelevant because now Google and OpenAI and Anthropic and whomever are all going to have to switch chips and with that go buy new infrastructure. At some point, to me, the infrastructure has to stabilize so that we can build on top of that investment for some reasonable period of time. And I would imagine that there's some moment where a lot of money is lost in sunk costs on stuff that just isn't going to make you competitive enough to move forward. If you're with the really large companies, I
So
think.
do you think that
Yeah.
stabilization is going to happen this year?
I mean, I think it wouldn't surprise me if you saw where that is. I don't know where that is. I'm not a professional investor. I'm not a, I'm just me, but I think, if a bubble in AI bursts, I don't think it will be because it's not working inside of companies, or people aren't adopting it. I think it will be because of the amount of capital that is spent in the wrong direction. Companies are starting to borrow against this. You're hearing conversations about companies having bond issuances to raise the money they need for this. That is good. They need to do that to be competitive. That makes sense historically. However, somebody's going to push that in the wrong direction, and it's really going to hurt their investors in a stock price or two. I think, I think a lot of Wall Street is prognosticating that they wouldn't be surprised if there's a real drawdown in the Mag 7 this year. Now that could just start with the taking of profits, and that doesn't mean that taking of profits doesn't mean that they won't continue to progress and that good stuff doesn't continue happening. But it could also eventually become about an investment of an enormous size that was made in the wrong direction, and having to deal with that kind of a loss. So we'll see. But anyhow, I
Great
have to go.
prediction.
There we
Uh,
go, brother.
yeah, I think that's a great place to end it. And
Yeah,
we're for those that are here, let's tune back in next
yeah,
Tuesday. We're just getting going here. We're just like
yeah,
being a Bruton and Berry. Real talk with Bruton
yeah,
and Berry is a good
yeah.
thing. I
It's
love it.
fun. 22 people today, man. That's our biggest yet. So thank you to everyone who's here. Appreciate it. I appreciate you, Dennis. Happy New Year. And go Red Sox.
No,
That's my prediction. The Red Sox will win the World Series this year. That's my
oh my
prediction.
God.
Dennis is a Yankees fan, everyone. We just discovered this about ourselves. I am a diehard Red Sox fan. I believe the Red Sox will win the World Series this year.
Oh my
All right.
goodness. Well, I hope that prediction doesn't come true. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Adios,
brother.
amigo. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.